So, this is what you said basically. Does the manuscript fit the journal's scope and aim, and will it be of interest to the readers, right? So they look at, is this paper fitting in the journal, and is it going to be interesting for the readers? You know, like, is it ready? Is it acceptable quality? Like, is it okay, or is it really bad quality? Like, if they look at the first page and they see that there are a lot of mistakes, they're not going to worry about keep reading it, right? And is it compliant with the instructions for the authors? That's important, and I think you mentioned something like that. Like, are they following the instructions that they gave you before you submit the paper, right? So those are some important things, and these are actually the stages. First, you submit your manuscript or your paper. Then they screen the papers, so they're not going to read the whole thing, but they screen the papers and choose a few that they think are appropriate, right? So some manuscripts are rejected before peer review. They just think they're not good quality or they're not relevant to the topic. They just reject them. But some go to the next step. To screen the papers, actually, so they get hundreds and hundreds of manuscripts all the time. So they're not going to look at every single one. They're not going to look at the grammar of every single one. So they just look at the first, usually like a cover letter that you send with it. If the cover letter is good quality, maybe the paper will be. Or the abstract or something really small. Like they can't read all of them, right? And then if they screen it and they decide, yeah, this could go to the next stage, then they peer review it. So several people read it. And then the journal or the journal editor or the editorial decide whether to publish or not. But then here, after they peer review the manuscript, they're going to tell you, you need to do this or do that, change this or change that. And sometimes it takes a long time. Or they could say, yes, it's great. So they inform you of the decision. Like, yes, they're going to accept your paper, or no, or change a lot of things, right? So those are the steps, or the stages. So the editor, when they read your paper, they could decide to accept the paper without any changes. So it's perfect. That is very, very rare. It's not very common. You have to be like an amazing writer with no mistakes, perfect grammar, right? So it's very rare. The second one is accept with minor revisions. So they say, like, yeah, we like it, but you need to change some things here. They could accept it with major revision, like basically change everything and maybe we'll take it. That's a lot. And it's kind of like a conditional acceptance, like, yeah, if you change all of these things, maybe. Then they could also tell you to revise and resubmit. So it's a conditional rejection, like, yeah, you need to take a look at this and then submit it again, and maybe we'll look at it again. Or reject it, because it's not related to what they want. It has too many mistakes. You're plagiarizing something, so reject it. So those are the things that could happen. So we are in the review and resubmit, right? So you sent it, and they told you, you need to check this paper again, and you need to change all these things, and then send it back to us. So that's the stage we're at right now. That's what we're going to deal with. So we are going to work in small groups, maybe now groups of 4. You have a handout number 1. You have some samples of reviewers' comments. So there are possible responses that you might receive from your reviewers. So I want you to read the comments and discuss how you would feel if the comments were for a manuscript that you wrote. And which comment would you prefer to get, or which comment would you not want to get? So from handout 1, just look at the samples of reviewers, the first half. Okay, so let's form groups of 4 and have small discussions. Okay, I'll give you maybe 5 minutes for this. Go ahead. Okay. So, any volunteers from the groups? How do you feel about these comments? Which one makes you feel better? Which one makes you feel worse? Anyone? You?
Something is precision, and the other day is the other side is want to be the better from the paper, because I think it's so many correction, to be better paper, and so many rejection maybe. Need to the evaluation, I think. They need to evaluation to be to take the aspect, the good aspect from the review to take for my paper, and to pull out the something no need to my paper.
Thank you. So now, any specific from the answers here, the reviewers, which one would you prefer to get and which one is the worst to get? So I think over there you had some good answers. Do you want to share your answers? Yes? Thank you.
I think the best answer is reviewer C, because they make me feel that our paper is interesting, but they give the reason like our paper is not really practical or justifiable.
Okay, so reviewer C says your recommendations are interesting, but you need to improve them so that they are more practical and justifiable. Yeah. Right? So it makes you feel, okay, they're interesting, so I feel a little bit good, but I need to improve them.
Yeah. They make me feel we have to improve this.
Okay, so they're being nice to you, right? Yeah. Any other answers over here?
Okay, thank you. Our group thinks that it's not only just necessary to make you feel better about your writing, but it is also important to give solutions or clear explanations why it is wrong and how to be improved. And so we think that the best answers or the best reviews would be like we prefer review from reviewer A and reviewer E, yeah, because they give a clear explanations on how we should improve our writing to make it better. The two reviewers say, number one, your suggestions are neither practical or nor justifiable. You need to change this and base your recommendations on more solid evidence. And reviewer E, there was no mention of the limitations of the study, also mention how your results compare to reference given to author, another study which was published very recently. Yeah.
Excellent answer. So reviewers D, no, what? C, makes you feel okay, like, oh, they're interesting, but they're not really telling you how to change them, right? Like, you need to improve them so they're more practical or justifiable. But then reviewer E, he says there was no mention of the limitations of the study. So you know that you need to mention the limitations of the study. And then also mention how your results compare to another study which was published so they're giving you very specific information that you need to include in your paper to improve it. So some people were saying like, oh, E, ooh, it's awful. But they're actually helping you more. If you read them carefully, like, yes, C makes you feel good. Like, oh, they told me my paper is interesting. Yeah, right? But then E, they're telling you exactly what you're missing and what you need to include. So it might seem a little bit like, oh, why did they write that? But then it's better, right? They're more honest. They tell you what you need to do. Very good. Good discussion. Okay, so let's move on. So if you get any of these answers and what you were saying, no, I want to go home, I want to just quit, I don't want to write anymore, right? when you get any of these answers, these are some suggestions. Number one, do not overreact to criticism. They're not criticizing your paper because they hate you or, like they don't like you. It's not related to any of these. It's just that they're trying to help you improve your paper. So when you have a lot of comments with specific recommendations, you should listen to those and try to incorporate them into your paper, right? Number two, think of the long-term project. So it's not just like what you got right now, but in the future, it can be improved. Once you're done with all the recommendations that they gave you, it's going to be much better. So you have to think about the future, the long-term project that you have, right? And that can help you not just that paper that you submitted, but maybe in the future for future papers, for future manuscripts, you're going to know what to include. So it can help you in the long run. And then number three, keep your eyes on the big picture. So don't get stuck in small details and like, why did they say that? I'm so sad. No, just think about the future. What do you want to do with this, right? So don't overreact. Don't go and cry. Quit. Like, I'm going to stop writing. I don't like this. Don't overreact. Just keep trying to improve it, okay? So now we're going to look at some authors' responses. So after they got a criticism, they had to reply to the editors. I want you to, with your group, look at the sample of authors' responses, what they answer, and then I want you to choose which of the responses by the author do you prefer and why. What's the best response? What is the best way to answer to these criticisms, right? Okay, so go ahead and talk for a few minutes. I'll walk around, and then we'll share your answers. Oh, it's not handout 2. It's the second half, right? Okay, so let's listen to your answers. Anyone wants to share? Did you guys want to share something? Yeah. Just pass. Oh, okay. They'll pass the microphone this way. So which one of the responses do you prefer in your group?
We think that it actually depends on how on the paper itself. So if the paper itself is totally not good and you fully realize that it needs a lot of improvement, I think number 3 is suited. So you realize your mistakes, and you have I have integrated your feedback in the article and indicated how I've done this. So you're taking the reviewers' comments and integrating it in your paper. So that's good. But if the paper is if you think that you're not wrong, I mean there's something to fight for. Only minor mistakes. I think number 4 is a quite good answer. So you're disagreeing with the reviewers, but you also have facts to have proof to support your statement.
Excellent. Very good. So it depends. If you agree, like, okay, yeah, they were right, I need to change these things, then number 3 is fine. If you don't agree with them, but you still want to show them why you wrote that, then you have the facts there. Very good. Do you want to share your answer? Oh, okay.
Okay. In my opinion, in our opinion, the best one is number 3. I consider my article had many mistakes, so depend on, okay, of course. I think number 3, because from the feedback from the reviewers we get, and their improvement. But the worst one is number 1 because it's not look professional at all. I disagree, and I will submit in another journal. It's very unpolite. Yes, number 3 is the best one, and the worst one is number 1.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to read number 3. I have integrated your feedback in the article and indicated how I have done this. So again, if you agree, like, oh yes, your feedback could be integrated, I agree with you, then yes, and I show you how I did it. So it's kind of accepting that you had mistakes. But number 1, I disagree with your feedback and will withdraw the paper and resubmit it to another journal. Like, oh my, like, okay, don't listen to me, do whatever you want. Bye. Right? So it sounds very rude. Do you have another opinion here?
To me, number 4 is a little bit better compared to the others.
Can you read number 4, please?
Yes, number 4 is my recommendation are based on Hermer's opinion about reduction subjectivity in grading students' writing. I don't really understand why you think they are not justifiable. It means that in this case, I try to argue and come up with the fact that my research is based on this, and I want to find out more from you why you think that this is not justifiable. And to me, it is also important when you are giving a feedback to the reviewers to keep yourself down to earth.
Very good. So yeah, you might be arguing like my point. This is my point, and I have the facts here. So if you really think that this is what you want to write and this is why you wrote it, then you have to give them some facts. So they see, oh, okay, yeah, okay, maybe we missed that. But it's better than number 1. It's better than number 2. Number 2, you're essentially missing the point. That's rude, right? Like, you didn't get it. Are you stupid? Right? So you're essentially missing the point. My recommendations are not to contribute to the practical. So yeah, that one's very, very rude. Number 3 is humble. Like, yes, I understand your recommendations and I'm integrating them now. Number 4 is very good because you're proving your point with facts. Very good.